Hi, I'm Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making Linzer Tortes, little miniature ones. Perfect for Valentine's Day. It says love. You might even get a marriage proposal out of it. And they are spectacular. It is probably the most tender, delicious short crust pastry I have ever had the pleasure of eating and making in my life. You will never make another one once you make mine. Now, Linzer's originated in Austria, typically have ground almonds in them, but you can use any nut. As you see, I'm going to use walnuts. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I've already done, so this is sort of my mise en place, you know, getting everything ready and in its place. I have pulverized half a cup of granulated sugar plus 2 tablespoons, 1 cup of walnuts, and there's obviously not a cup in here. I'm just showing you what I used. So I used like pieces of walnuts. If you don't like walnuts, use almonds. If you don't like almonds, use hazelnuts, whatever you want to do. And then half a cup of some type of cake, whether it's a pound cake, maybe you have a cupcake that you made. No frosting, no filling, just sort of chopped up. And I put all these things together. So half a cup of some form of cake, unfrosted, unfilled, 1 cup of some form of nut, in my case, walnuts, half a cup of granulated sugar plus 2 tablespoons. You put it in the food processor, pulverize the heck out of it till it gets tiny, tiny, tiny pulverized little teeny pieces, almost like a flour, almost like a meal. And then what happens is this provides tenderness. This prevents gluten from forming. This creates the most melt in your mouth torte you've ever seen in your life. And you put this in your electric mixing bowl. Okay, the whole thing. Followed by 1½ sticks of unsalted butter that I have allowed to come to room temperature. So I left it at room temperature for a couple hours. And we're going to mix this up. And it's just the crumbs and the butter. It's sort of the creaming method. Your sugar's already in here. The reason we put the sugar in with the nuts is because it absorbs the oil from the nuts, so you don't end up with a walnut butter, and that would not be good. Now, once this gets all sort of blended together, we're going to add 1 egg. All right. Once that becomes mixed, and this is on low speed, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to blend in 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon, if you want to go a little more, it's okay with me, ground cinnamon. Whisk it up because you want your chemical leavener. Oh, I smell the cinnamon. And this is, like I said, the most spectacular pastry. Have I ever led you wrong? Ever? Never? All right. And I'm letting this go, and I'm not worrying about gluten formation and overmixing because I haven't added the gluten-forming proteins yet in the flour. So I'm going to turn this on low speed. I'm going to add my flour mixture on low speed. All right, I use my paddle attachment. I didn't tell you to preheat the oven yet because we don't need to preheat the oven yet because we do need to let our dough chill. The one thing about this particular pastry and this short crust is, and it's called short because it shortens gluten strands and prevents them from forming, therefore creating lots of tenderness. But it's very soft and it needs to chill. The butter needs to become hard again. So you're just going to keep adding that. And I'm going to put it in plastic wrap. And at this point, if you say, well, I don't really want to be making a Linzer torte right now, I want to wait, or I'm just not feeling it, you can actually put this dough wrapped and labeled into your freezer. All right, so I'm getting everything in there. And that now I want to stop mixing because I don't want to create gluten. And that's your dough. All right, that's your beautiful dough. I used to make this in a restaurant, and the chef would always come by and steal a bit of it and eat it raw, because that's how good it is. But don't do it because it's raw egg, so don't do it. So once you get all your dough off of the paddle, all right, you're going to gather it, and you're going to see it is soft. All right. I'm going to use my bowl scraper. You know, that's that malleable scraper, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in the bowl. And we're going to put it in plastic wrap. So sometimes, you know, it doesn't come to the bottom of the bowl, that paddle. So I really want you to see it's soft. It's malleable. It's gorgeous. And what makes it so beautiful and so tender, remember the nuts, the sugar, the butter, even the egg is a tenderizing agent. So I'm actually going to gather it together, okay? And I'm going to move all my ingredients that I have here, and I'm going to put it in plastic wrap. All right. Just let it go in there. And at this point, you just want to push it together into sort of a square shape, rectangular shape. It actually doesn't matter, all right? But I always say, tuck that baby into bed, flip it over, and just sort of press it together so it all comes together. So I'm going to put this into the refrigerator to chill because you can see how soft it is, and I'll see you back here in a couple hours. So my Linzer dough has been chilling for a couple of hours. It got nice and firm. If it gets too firm, you want to leave it at room temperature for just a little while. Now, it can be very crumbly, and that's why this type of dough translates in French to pâte sablée, which means sandy dough. So it's very hard to roll out. So what we're going to be making is these small 4.5 inch wide diameter false bottom tart pans. So you can see the bottom comes out. I've sprayed them with nonstick cooking spray. You can use oil. You can use whatever you want. There is enough butter in the dough that you don't even need to. This is what I call insurance. I just want to make sure they come out. You never want to put these in the oven on their own. So you always put them on a sheet pan. I usually line it with aluminum foil or parchment. I have preheated my oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to fill each of these. Now, typically, Linzers have raspberry jam or apricot jam, some sort of preserves. Nothing like grape jelly. Jelly is a little too liquidy when it gets into the oven. So I like a raspberry preserve that has the seed in it because it just gives a little more texture to it. So I have a nice raspberry preserve. Use like a high quality raspberry preserve. And I'm going to tell you to take your tart pan, and it doesn't have to be this big or this small. It can be whatever you want it to be. And you're just going to scatter some of this dough, almost like a streusel topping. Just sprinkle it around. Just enough to fill the bottom, and you're going to go up the sides, and then you're going to push. All right? So you're actually going to push it up so it's about maybe 1/4 inch thick along the bottom, and then you're going to push it along the edges as well. And it will be very crumbly. Do not worry about it. This is exactly the way it should be, but you're going to push it in and make sure it gets into every nook and crevice of these little tart pans. And that's why I spray them, because they go in and out, and they actually come out a lot easier if you do that. But the false bottom really helps. So if you notice, I'm going around. You see, I'm going around all around the edge. And you don't want to fill it too much because you do want to have room for your jam, right? That's the whole purpose of this. So if you see any holes on the bottom, add some more dough. The one thing is if you see a hole, patch. Just patch it. Not a big deal. And then I'm pushing and I'm pushing. I'm going to put a little bit more here. All right. And these are really beautiful because not only does nobody have to share, but they have this beautiful lattice top. And it's a little challenging to make with the Linzer dough because it's such a short dough, you know, very, very tender. Oh, but it's so gorgeous. And you'll see how I present it. I'm telling you, you're going to get a marriage proposal or a little romance. And you will, I mean, it's perfect for Valentine's Day or any time. All right, so once you get to this point, you're going to just sort of push it. And I even take my rolling pin and just push over the edges. All right, and just take off the excess. Don't hold it from the bottom though, because you don't want to push that false bottom up. Okay, and then I'm going to put it in my sheet pan, but before I do that, because I want to do one for you to show you what it looks like, I'm going to take whatever it takes, about, it might be a tablespoon or two of jam, your favorite jam, like I said, and you just want to fill it so it's about maybe a half of the whole height or almost up to the sides of those beautiful little ins and outs of the side, all right, of the fluting. So this is about right. And it varies to the size of your tart pan. So if it's very small, you won't be putting in as much. So you just have to play it by ear. But what's great is you can use any size you want. All right, so once I have that, I'm going to push the rest of it aside, and you can see it is crumbly. They also bake off to wonderful cookies. So if you have like a little heart-shaped cookie cutter and you don't want to make tarts, you can do that as well. So I took a little bit here, I floured my work surface, and now I'm going to work on my lattice. And it doesn't have to be that long, the lattice. This is not like a full-size pie. Because it's so tiny, it only has to be about 4.5, 5 inches long. All right, so I'm going to go very easy when I roll, and you're going to see cracks. Don't worry about it. You will see cracks. All right, be forewarned. Cracks will occur, and they're not a bad thing. They happen. And the dough is very crumbly, so again, get used to the cracks, but we will make it work. All right. So at this point, I take my pizza wheel. You can use a sharp knife if you want. And I always bring my tart over, and it is, you know, way over my 4 inches. So I'm just going to make, and it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to make maybe 1/4 of an inch thick slices, you know, strips. And I might make 3 to go one way. See how they look. If you want 4, you can make 4 go one way and then turn it 45 degrees and make another 3 or 4 the other way. All right. So beautiful. So I'm not going to use that first piece. All right. And then I'm going to take 2 offset spatulas, teeny ones, just to help me lift them up. All right. So I'm going to take my biggest one and I'm going to start in the middle. And I'm just going to put it across, okay? And that's all I'm going to do. Now I'm going to take my second one, and I'm going to put it like this, all right? And I'm going to take my third one, and if you feel like you want to do a fourth, like I feel like something's missing there, I want to do a fourth. I want to do a fourth. All right, and anything goes because this is your pastry, and it can be a small one. So save the longer ones when you go the other way, and they should be evenly distributed. Now at this point, I'm just going to squeeze. Watch, just push and break them off, just so that they actually break off on the sides of your tart pan. Just push, and you can leave it like this. I mean, it's really pretty like this, but I like that beautiful lattice, and I always give it a little push, and then I rotate it 45 degrees. I'm going to do the same now, 45 degrees. All right, see what I'm doing? Because I did 4 one way, I'm going to do 4 the next way. Again, use a little help if you need it, because sometimes they'll crack. Be patient with yourself. Cracking is okay. Cracking is tender. Remember, everything is tender when you crack. All right, see, I just got a little crackage. I think I made a word up, crackage. And then just push it and break it off. See what I'm doing? Break it off. Break it off. And don't worry about that crack. You're going to push down into your jam. And you're just going to make sure that everybody is in. And you're going to put this on your sheet pan. I'm going to continue making these and working this. You're going to bake these sheet pan of tarts or Linzer torts, miniature Linzer torts. They're going to be maybe 4 to 6 of them, depending upon how many and what size that your tart pans are. So you may end up making 8 to 10. It depends on what your size is. So you're going to bake them at 325, the whole sheet in the center rack for 30 to 45 minutes. And what you're going to go by is just like when you bake a pie, a lattice pie. You're looking for this jam to bubble, and you want this pastry to be really nice and brown. That's what you're looking for. Bubbly jam, nice and brown pastry. See you back here. So my Linzers have baked between 30 and 45 minutes until they got nice and brown and that raspberry jam bubbles up through the lattice crust. And they look gorgeous. Now, this is how you remove them. When they cool down, usually when they're barely warm, and sometimes I chill them in the pans first. So you can actually put them on a small glass that has a bottom that's smaller than the bottom part of your mini tart pan. All right, and they should come right off. And then all you have to do is slide this bottom little piece off. All right, so this should come right off. Okay, you see that? And then you just put them down on a paper, some sort of a lined sheet pan. I used wax paper. So the way I like to serve these, especially for Valentine's Day, for, a little romance, I took some white chocolate ganache. I put it on a nice plate. And then in chocolate, I piped love. Big surprise, love. And this is how I love to serve this. So what you want to do is put this on a separate plate. All right, this has the bottom off already, and I want to blast it with a little powdered sugar. All right, so we're going to just blast it with a little powdered sugar. And if this doesn't say love, I don't know what does, okay? So if you want a romantic evening or you just want something fabulous to eat, and this is a fabulous pastry, you just pick it up with an offset spatula, and you're going to slide it. Look how stunning that looks. Right on your plate. All right. 2 forks, a little scoop of ice cream or some whipped cream. You got yourself a Valentine's Day dessert. I say that is faboo. And if you don't want to share, you can each get your own. And don't even wait till Valentine's Day. These are fabulous desserts for family and friends. And let the kids get in and help you too, because this is oodles of fun to do. Best pastry and best mini raspberry Linzer tort ever. I hope you become a subscriber. Until next time.